Shabbat Shalom, I'm Robert Barr, and this is...
I'm Rabbi Rami Shapiro.
And we are delighted that you're joining us for this Shabbat service. We're going to start our service with a reading. Rami, if you'll begin.
6 days we speak. Tonight we listen. 6 days we build. Tonight we rest. 6 days we take care of others. Tonight we nurture ourselves. 6 days we work to change our world. Tonight we're renewed by what is eternal. 6 days we plan for the future. Tonight we are enveloped in the present. 6 days we eat and drink in haste.
Tonight we savor the taste of bread and wine and feel the bond of the world that feeds us. 6 days we teach. Tonight we learn. 6 days we hear the clamor. Tonight we listen for clarity. 6 days we struggle to expand our influence. Tonight we're dissolved in a greater influence. 6 days we focus our vision on the task at hand. Tonight we look beyond what we can see. May each of us find our Sabbath peace. So I am really excited that you're joining us at this Shabbat with Rabbi Rami Shapiro. I have known Rami Shapiro since...
40 years.
40 years. We go back a long time. We first met in Jerusalem in a library in 1976 when we were both first-year students at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion. What's really exciting, Rami's in town for a lecture. He's giving a congregation, Beth Adam, this coming Sunday, February 21st. And it's really great that he's here, and it really speaks to ourjewishcommunity.org and Congregation Beth Adam that you're here. Rami was a contemporary of mine at school, and we really talked a lot about religion and the meaning of modern Jewish identity, and that's what ourjewishcommunity.org is all about, modern Jewish identity. It sprung from Congregation Beth Adam. We use the technology of the internet to have this conversation, but it's really the conversation that's most important. Yeah. And it's a conversation that takes place in real time, over distance, and some of you will watch this in archives because it's not a time-bound conversation. It is an intellectual grappling with what does it mean to be a modern Jew. Sometimes we go back and we look at the text to see what some of our ancestors said, many of whom were much more progressive than I think are given credit, right?
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
the conversation that we've talked about. So we're delighted you're here, whether you're watching right now. Write comments. If you have a specific question, Sam's behind the camera. If there's something that he catches his eye, he might shout it out to us. If not, leave your comments. Rami will have a chance to look at them after the service. Either way, it's great that you're here. If you're watching in the archives, you can always write to me at rabbi@ourjewishcommunity.org. So enjoy, relax, sit back as we light the candles. She'll begin that reading.
On Shabbat, we light the candles. Candles bring forth light, illuminating the darkness. Candles offer us warmth, providing comfort. Candles awakening us as we reach for possibilities. As we light these candles, let us use their light to stretch beyond ourselves, touching others, bettering our world.
Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath.
Shabbat Shalom.
Did that well. Oh, there it is. That's it. We got rules about candles here in flames, so yeah, throw it in. So, this is Rami Shapiro, Robert Barr. 1976, Hebrew Union College, Jerusalem, the library. We met, and we began a conversation. And for 40 years, since really that meeting, we have been in conversation.
Almost every week.
Almost every week for 40 years about Judaism. And this is part of that conversation. Rami's actually going to be here tonight. If you're in the greater Cincinnati area, we're going to be having a conversation for services. If you're in the greater Cincinnati area, you can hear Rami speak at Congregation Beth Adam on Sunday morning at 9:45. There will be an interview with you that's posted. If you're outside of Cincinnati, we're going to film an interview with you after that, and then it'll be posted, and you can be part of this ongoing conversation, which is between us and our ancestors, between us and you, and about what does it mean to be part of this Jewish community. And what I wanted to focus tonight, you and I were ordained in 1981. We started in Jerusalem in 1976. So for a good percentage of both of our lives, mine a little less than yours, I just needed to say that. Yeah, we're all friends. What have you seen? Because you were a pulpit rabbi, you were an administrator for a short period of time of a Jewish organization, then you really became a writer. You really followed your passion of writing, speaking, educating, which you do a lot of. So what have you seen in the 30-plus years that you've been professionally involved in the Jewish community? How have you seen the Jewish community change in What does it mean?
So let me be very clear. This is just my perspective based on
Yeah.
synagogues I go to and I lecture at, and right?
Right, because
So-
that's why we're asking, because I think
Okay,
you're a
'cause I-
perceptive. I mean, and for those of you who don't know Rami, you're a perceptive man. I mean, you really are. I mean, we're friends, and I can make a lot of jokes right now. But the fact is, I mean, that's what you do well. You analyze, you think, you read, you compare. So you're a
here's
good
what
observer.
I think is going on. I think that what we see happening is a complete devolution of Jewish intellect. That we've got basically the vast majority of synagogues that I go to imitate some romanticized past that never even existed, sort of a Tevye-esque kind of thing, as if that were Judaism. They imitate that. It doesn't work. It's flat. No one's really moved. So the solution, they think, is to up the ante. Let's just do more of the same, as if that is going to somehow bring them something different. And what the result seems to be is a mass exodus of the younger people who just do not find this compelling, a mass exodus of people who are not, you might say, tribally driven. You know, maybe they're interfaith couples. Or they're seekers who have crossed the boundary of Judaism, and they're looking for truth, but not a jingoistic, we're the chosen, rah rah rah, you know, that kind of thing. And the synagogue doesn't seem to be a place that attracts them. They don't go there. Now, there are exceptions. There are synagogues, especially in places like New York City, which are, you know, booming, and they're doing all kinds of interesting things. But the vast majority of places I go, there is a mediocrity and a flatness and a sense of we're just pretending to be people we're not.
And so, and when you say that, pretending that they're reciting words, doing a service that is of a different time and a different place and no longer speaks to them, but they don't feel they can change it. Is that?
I think that's absolutely part of it. I mean, they're reading texts as if they're reading texts that we know were not history as if they were history. We're reading events that are deeply, you know, wise narratives about the nature of humanity, but we're reading them as if they were actual historical events, and they make no sense.
Rather than reading them as philosophic treatises.
Right. The Bible, though it's written in story form, is really much more about philosophy than history.
And that's what a lot of what you do. I mean, that's a big part of your
I
career
try to
at this
bring
point.
that out, right? But people are hungry for that philosophy. But there's nobody out there, and this is not meant to be a criticism of all rabbis, but it sounds like it, and I know that.
And we have a lot of friends who are rabbis. Well, we have two friends, you and me.
But we have a lot of acquaintances.
who are rabbis.
But this isn't a criticism of the rabbis. We were trained, you and I were trained to be somebody we're not. Right. We were trained to be this romanticized version of a neo-Hasidic kind of, and so we end up doing these funny things, like if we just clap hands loud enough, we're going to have a spiritual experience, even though what we're saying goes against everything we knew 10 minutes before we walked into the synagogue. Right. And that is really troubling. So the synagogue is not challenging. Judaism has become, and I'll end it with this, Judaism has become something that we grow out of rather than grow into.
Right.
It's just not for adults.
Right. It's very pediatric. And there's a dissonance. I mean, one of the things that I always talk about is what we say in the sanctuary, we should be able to say in the foyer. It should be the same conversation. If there is a dissonance between the two, the foyer wins, meaning that which we believe before we walk in is going to dominate our lives because that's what we brought into the building. And if we walk into the sanctuary and we say, put blinders on, pretend we're Iron Age people, pretend the Big Bang didn't exist, pretend we don't know that we're 13.8 billion years old universe and that we're made up of the same stuff of the universe, and we talk to younger people who are getting the best education we can. How can they take us seriously? Why should they?
They don't.
And they shouldn't.
They don't.
Right. And I want to rewind just a tad, because I just want to make it really clear, because knowing you and knowing what you do, you talked about the Bible is a story and there's philosophy in it. But a lot of people think when you say that, if they'd only know the sort of the truncated, they may go, "Oh yeah, it's sort of those biblical stories." But you're talking about deep philosophy. You're more. Give me some sense of it. Give everybody a sense of what you mean.
Okay, so I think that story is one of the most powerful ways that human beings have ever invented to pass on the deepest existential wisdom we've ever uncovered. It's just no one remembers Baruch Spinoza's treatise. You have to read it, but you haven't memorized it. But I can tell you the story of Adam and Eve.
Sure.
And I remember that, and we've remembered that for thousands of years. When we teach the story of Adam and Eve as if there were really an Adam and an Eve, and they're just these two naked people running around having a fetish about a fruit, I mean, then it's like, this is ridiculous.
Right.
If it's about different ways to go after wisdom, I mean, the prize of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil is wisdom. That's what they're after. There's two ways to get it. Eve goes at it in a very deliberative manner. She actually has 3 encounters with the tree. The first one, she sees it's delicious, but she doesn't do it. She masters her appetites. The second one, she sees it's beautiful, but she doesn't grab it to possess beauty. It's sort of an anti-Greek thing. It's not, truth is beauty, beauty is truth. Judaism says, no, there's something else besides that. Eve masters her desire to own the glittery. Then the third time she sees that it'll make her wise, and she knows she's not supposed to do it, but she's the Hebrew Prometheus, and she eats it anyway. Then she hands it to Adam, and he doesn't think, he doesn't do anything. He just consumes it. Those are the 2 ways we go after wisdom. One actually makes us wise. The other just makes us guilty, ashamed, fearful, right? And that's why if you read the text carefully, and this is true in Hebrew, but it's also true in English, if you read the text carefully, only Adam is exiled from the garden. Because God says, now that talking about Adam singular, now that he has eaten from the tree of knowledge.
Like us.
The Hebrew could be read, he's like one apart from us. In other words, he's become a God in his own right. He doesn't get it. Now he's going to lord it over the universe. And if he eats from the tree of life and lives forever, he'll be stuck in that spot. So I'm kicking him out. Never kicks Eve out. Eve seems to walk out. She's out in the next chapter. But never kicks Eve out. Why? Because Eve has intellect. She's processed. She's mastered her baser instincts and risked death for the highest instinct. Maslow's kind of thing, of meaning and all that. And she could eat from the tree of life. God never says she could. It's a story. I don't believe that this God is real or anything. But that's a real message.
Right. And so what I want to sort of dissect is a little bit is that when you think about it, that the authors of that text were philosophers in their own right. They were philosophers of their age, and the way they were grappling with that set of those ideas was through stories. Now, there were modern philosophers who, Sartre, wrote plays. That's exactly what he was doing, right? So what happens is philosophy as storytelling does take place. There is technical philosophy, Spinoza's treatise on ethics, right? That's what we would call technical philosophy. I used to study that. I walked out of a class like that because unless you're really into the philosophy, it can be dry and boring. But stories can be philosophically driven and help us understand, and that's what you delve into. You look at what the authors of the text were doing. You interpret. You explicate.
Well, I mean, I do what rabbis have been doing, what we rabbis have been doing for thousands of years. I don't want to claim that the people who wrote the Adam and Eve story were meant to say what I'm saying.
Right.
That if that's what it is, then we have to imagine that they knew what we know, and
right, there was far.
And I don't want to do that. I think that's a little anachronistic. But as Jews, we don't look at the Bible as a fixed text. It's a living text. And so we can read in those stories deeper and deeper layers of meaning, which the writers may not have intended consciously. But that's true with any piece of literature.
It was like looking at a painting. You look at a painting and you see something that the painter didn't know he or she created, and may say, "No, I didn't do that," but we see it anyways. The issue is good story, if it is powerful, is layered even unintentionally, and it's layered to the idea that the person doing it at the moment may have been grappling with an idea that they only had superficial understanding of, and we go into it in greater detail than they ever could have.
And there's another layer to this what we're talking about that goes back to your original question about what you see, what I'm seeing. the only way to bring out those deeper layers of the story is for you to enter into the story with your imagination. You know, when you read the Torah, when we read the Torah, the reader has to breathe the vowels into it. It's just consonants, it's just gibberish. You breathe the vowels into it. The same thing when you read the printed text. You have to breathe your imagination into it to liberate the layers of meaning that are there as seeds, and maybe, you know, just what you said, you know, we see them and they may not have seen them, but they're there for us to find. And that's what keeps the text a living text. What happens, or what has happened, what I've seen, is that people have lost the capacity to activate their imagination with regard to Jewish text and tradition and liturgy. We read it as if it were fixed and dead.
Do you think that we've lost the ability, or do you think it's been beaten out of people, that there's been a sense of that to be authentically Jewish is to accept the text as is? Somehow that we've,
okay,
you know what I mean? Versus, it's not that we didn't, it's not that we lost it, we were not allowed to have it. There was a point, I think that...
Which is so un-Jewish.
Well, it seems to me un-Jewish because it seemed like there was. I mean, that's one that we studied Midrash, and if you've been at Beth Adam for the high holidays, you know that we read Midrash, Jewish legends. I mean, there was this whole tradition of taking a story and reworking the story and adding to the story and adding depth to the story that wasn't there, and that was all. Yeah. It was all okay, and it was supposed to be. Even the prayers. Right. The traditional prayer book, but somehow everything got fixed at some point.
2,000 years ago, Rabbi Ben Bagbag says, turn her and turn her, everything is in her, and the her is Torah. So when you turn Torah, you're using your imagination. Let me look at it this way. Let me look at it this way. Oh, look, I didn't see this because I didn't turn it this way. That's what we're supposed to do. But at some point, and I don't know when that is, but at some point, we were told, no, this is what it is, this is what it means, you're a Jew, this is what Jews believe it.
And if you find something in there that you weren't supposed to, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, don't share it.
Don't share it. Right.
And if you can't, and it's because it's fixed, and if you can't accept what's given to you as a fixed text, then there's no place for you to go.
Well, that's why.
So you leave.
Right.
Become a Buddhist.
You become You become a Buddhist, or you become a nun. An N-O-N-E-S, somebody who's no longer involved, right? You become Buddhist, people's spiritual search. And that's one of the reasons we really grapple with liturgy. I don't know that we certainly don't have the final word on what the liturgy we've created.
Right, you don't want a final word.
Right. And people have asked me, Bob, what's going to happen, if you were to come back and, somehow, magically I came back in 100 years, would you expect the service to be the same here? And my answer is absolutely not. My assumption is, just like, is that it'll keep on evolving.
Sure.
We're going to struggle with it. We grapple with it. The energy of Judaism is the energy of creation, not the energy of acceptance. Because
Sure. That's the midrash of Moses when he's going to die. He says, let me see what's going to happen to the world I created. Right. And they show him Rabbi Akiva's academy, and he doesn't understand a word.
So let's give us a little time frame. If you don't know, Moses, biblical figure, Rabbi Akiva's academy was, what would that have been about? First century. So, 1,400 years is sort of if these things existed. So Moses walks in, he was a desert wanderer, he walks into a classroom where people are sitting and studying a book.
Right, his book, and he doesn't understand a word they're saying, and he's upset about it until they say, and this is the word of
Moses.
This is what Moses brought to us. And he goes, okay, fine. You saw stuff I didn't see. Okay,
right,
fine.
Right, and that was, it was interesting.
That's Judaism.
Right, that was what's exciting. That's Maimonides. Maimonides said, Maimonides, Jewish philosopher, also, later period of time, also said there was a secret that nobody saw. Right, and he came up and he was Aristotelian. He was a very philosophical guy. But it's interesting that you've seen that flatness, the deadness, the last. What do you think? Two questions. We don't have a lot of time. 2 questions is, what does it portend for the future, and how do we change it?
Yeah, well, if it stays the same, Judaism just becomes an artifact of history. A synagogue will be sort of your local equivalent of colonial Williamsburg. People come in and say, "Oh, this is what Jews used to do,"
and they talk, and we're going to pretend because that's exactly what they do.
Well, that's what we do. We pretend.
Right.
We pretend that talking about kings in a democratic society where we would never have a king, somehow a king is a great thing. Yeah, we pretend. So if it keeps going the way it's going, it just becomes more and more irrelevant. You can imagine that rabbis become curators of a museum that fewer and fewer people ever visit.
Right. And everyone puts on their costume when they show up.
Yeah.
We're going to put a costume that they don't wear any other time.
And fewer and fewer people are going to bother to visit and put on the clothes and pretend. So how do you turn it around? No, I haven't got a clue. I haven't got a clue. I
Well,
think,
you're here. You're helping to. Well, this may not be the end all and be all, but it's really. I mean, this is an attempt to at least have a new conversation.
Yes.
I mean, there were people who, when we did this, because we've been doing this for 8 years, when we started, people said, you can't do this. Well, you can't because we don't have a traditional minyan. They said, minyan meaning 10 people in the same room. They said, if you can't do it, well, one, we don't. The number of people in the room is irrelevant at this point. We can be connected in time and space totally differently. We're not dictated what can be or not said when we're together or not together. And we're using a new format. Is it the perfect one? I don't know. This is where you online help us.
Here's how it changes. Because you are watching this. Here's how it changes. You have to change it. Rabbis are not going to change it. They're not trained to change it. They're trained to maintain it. It's just like with the political parties. Unless the country says no to the nonsense that passes for politics, you can't expect politicians to change it. That's where their bread and butter is. That's where their power is. That's where their prestige is. We cannot turn to rabbis and expect rabbis to create the Judaism we want. We have to either do it ourselves or we have to demand it of them or demand of the schools.
So let me add another thing and support what we're doing. If you like what we're doing and you're here, that's the other piece of it, is if whether it's this or something else you find, be a supporter and be a champion of it. Because that's the other part of it. It's saying no to what you don't like, but it's saying yes to what you do like.
Yeah.
So
okay.
if you isn't that the other? I mean, I'm not. This is not just a shameless plug. Though
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a shameless plug.
But see the number on the bottom of the screen. Call now.
Well, we don't do that. Every once in a while, we'll say, if you make a donation, please. But it's the truth of it. Because part of what I'm able to do, and it's been very interesting, is when I walk into places, and I come in and I talk about our Jewish community and the tens of thousands of people who've tuned in or participated on high holidays or done, and people look at me, all of a sudden they have to take my voice, it's not just my voice, it's our voice more seriously, because I get to be at the table as a rabbi, right? You get invited to speak, not because you're Rami Shapiro, I like Rami Shapiro, but you're invited to speak as Rabbi Rami Shapiro, right? You're author Rami Shapiro, who has created things. I'm invited to meetings as a rabbi. That's what gets me in the door. I then can talk about what we're talking about, and people take it, at first they go, oh, Bob, you're sort of this crazy guy, but I say, wait a second, maybe I am crazy, maybe I'm just a total loon. But there are thousands of people who participate with us. You can't just totally discount everybody who's saying yes, right? That's how we change. I mean, that would be...
Sure. I mean, that's certainly an avenue for change. I'm just suggesting that you can't blame your local rabbi for not creating something new when she or he is hired to maintain the status quo. It's just not fair. But if you don't like it, rather than simply walk away completely from the community, create something else. Participate in this. Use the resources that Rabbi Bar provides. There are ways of doing this that would cause, from the bottom up, a revolution.
I think that's absolutely it. I happen to agree with it. I think the Jewish community. One of my hopes is that what we're doing is empowering. I don't want to disempower. I want everyone who participates in this to feel like they're part of it. It's their Judaism. It's not somebody else's Judaism. I think we've let the ancestors own it.
Yes, right, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
They had their chance. I think that's the responsibility. This would be the metaphor I use when I talk to parents. I said, your job is not to raise your children to be your clones. Your job is to raise your children to be independent. You give them the best you can, and when they move into the future, you get excited for them. But we somehow have stopped doing that with religion. Somehow our grandparents have become more important than our grandchildren.
Yeah.
I think we have to flip it. Yeah. Metaphor, right?
Really beautifully put. Yeah, absolutely. Without creating pediatric Judaism.
Right.
Because then we're simply feeding our grandchildren our grandparents' religion. That's not what we're doing.
No. I agree with you. It's got to be empowering. It's got to be, because when I talk about grandchildren, I'm not talking about the babies. I'm talking about, I want young adults to go, wow, this is mine. I get to add my voice. I get to change it.
Exactly. I want to empower people to turn the Torah. I want to empower people to write new liturgy. I want to empower people to take the holy days and recast them for the 21st century. And we'd end up with lots of different kinds of Judaism, but millions of people committed to creating a very diverse, exciting Jewish community. Right. We don't need to be defined by some common set of rules. We need to start from a common set of texts and principles, and then we're intrinsically creative. Look, Jews are We're creative in music, in art, in literature, in movies. But in Judaism, no, of course not.
And then the creative people walked away.
Of course.
And then the services became flat. The great artists weren't painting synagogues anymore.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't think they ever were.
Well, I mean, maybe creating art in synagogues. That's what I mean.
Michelangelo's Dean wasn't actually painting his local shul.
He's like, hey, you know.
I get the idea.
You get the metaphor. Hey, come on. So, okay. So good. I'm really excited. This is great. We're going to transition. This happens to, we're going to pause from our conversation at this point, and we're going to transition to a different moment, because while we want to create and empower, we also remember. We remember those who came before us. That's part of a sense of continuity, because we are in this chain. And the challenge is to remember the past, but not being fixed by it.
Right. We remember it. We don't imitate it.
Right. So we're going to pause now as we call those our ancestors, those of our loved ones who have died and are no longer with us. As we turn and we begin to read, the cycle of life unfolds. Just as we rejoice in new life, we mourn its final ending. The inevitable death of those whose lives have touched ours. Today we join voices with others as we say aloud the words which help us recall those we've lost. Remember the moments we've shared, the laughter and the tears, the beauty and the pain. Inevitably, as our lives intertwine, as we have touched one another, we have been influenced, changed, enriched by their presence. And so, as we mourn their loss, we celebrate their life. Thus the cycle continues, their lives forever marking the continued unfolding of our own. So tonight we pause as we recall those whose names have been shared with us. Rebecca Brenner, Edward L. Nolan, Gilbert Sussman, Carol Vitale.
Let me add my father's name, Archie Shapiro.
Please. And if you have names that you hold in your heart this night, please say them or type them in and share them with one another. These are names that were shared with us, but please, we carry lots of names in our hearts. Recall those names. We recall those who've died as a result of violence and terror that mars our planet. We recall those who've died defending the principles of justice, peace, and democracy everywhere around the world. We think of those who've died as a result of natural disasters or innocent victims of war. We think of those who have no one to recall their names this night. We think of all those who no longer walk among us. Ein b'dei ha'mavet ha'kawach. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. With our strength and our courage, we do not forget. Acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Beauty created, wisdom shared is not lost. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. Im dama'ot be'einenu, be'et evlenu, nishmor al zecher achuvenu. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember. Zeker tzadik livracha. May the memory of good people bless our days.
Let the Sabbath be a time for believing in what could be and seeing with new eyes. In this serious world, let us take ourselves less seriously. In these harsh times, let us listen for a soothing word. While the world around us unfolds in an instant, let us judge each other a little more slowly. Let the Sabbath shine a light into a corner of ourselves where hope is renewed. Let us remember a reason to be joyful, a way to be gentle. Let the Sabbath be a time for opening up. Let us find strength in our dreams and trust in our strength.
Okay. And we'll continue with our challah. So I'm going to uncover it. Yes, it's a real challah, but it's not. For some reason, I brought the uncut one down. Even though we're having services, I know people online know that when we have cut ones, that means there's services here. We do have services in Cincinnati tonight. So as I said, if you're in the greater Cincinnati, come join us at 8 o'clock. If you'll read the challah, I'll do the wine.
In Jewish tradition, we share the challah as we celebrate the Shabbat. We are reminded that challah, a twisted loaf of bread, sustains and nurtures the life of our bodies. May the sharing of this challah sustain and nurture our hunger for knowledge and understanding of the world around us. May the sharing of this challah sustain and nurture our connection to those close by and those separated by distance and by time. May the sharing of this challah encourage us to reach out to those across our rooms, across our hallways, to those across our desks and across the miles. May the sharing of this challah strengthen and enrich our coming week.
Baruch Hamal Kapenu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch Hazon Ha'adam, blessed is the vision of our minds. Baruch Lechem Ha'aretz, blessed is the bread of the earth. And then you have some wine or some juice joined with me. It's our custom on Shabbat to share wine or juice with family, friends, and community. It reminds us that it's not enough for us to quench our physical thirst. We must, of course, nourish our spirit as well. As we celebrate the Sabbath, may this wine or juice remind us to live our lives to the fullest and embrace the joys and pleasures that life offers. Bruchim ha'chayim ba'olam, blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim ha'chayim ba'adam, blessed is the life within each person. So we say l'chaim, to life.
L'chaim.
I put it, it's sweet. It's juice. And every time I taste it, it's like, oh, a little bit sweeter than I remembered it last time. So I am delighted that Rabbi Rami Shapiro shared this Shabbat with us. If people want to learn more about you, read your stuff, how do we?
Yeah, the best place to go is rabbirami.com, and that can take you to my videos, my magazine articles, my 30-something books on Amazon.
30-something books? They're little books. Did you color within all the lines?
All the lines, and some of them are paint by number.
Paint by numbers, I know. So really, we're joking. As we said, we've known long-standing friends. So Rami's written lots of things, important work, translations. You have books on recovery and Judaism. You have a lot of work. You've done a lot, and it's impressive work, and it's important work. So I urge you to do that. Couple things. Rami and I actually have pre-recorded a few services today because he was in town for a very short period of time, and I didn't want to lose the opportunity to learn from him and share that with you. So over the next few months, we're going to show some services that we pre-recorded with Rami during today, so that you can have other aspects. We talked about spirituality, we talked about God, we've done several different topics, so you'll be able to see those. Also, probably about 2 weeks after Rami's giving his lecture here at Beth Adam, we're going to do a short interview with him that we'll post online, and you can find it at Cincinnati OJC. That's the landing page where we'll post it. So go to Cincinnati OJC, you'll find it there. You'll also find, I did a podcast or two about Rami. There'll be some reflective blogs. So take a look. Look, always go to our Facebook page as well. There's when I'll post new things, other folks who are going to be joining us for services, and we stay in touch. Please, participate. Next week, Reverend Sharon Dittmar is going to be here. Unfortunately, we actually pre-recorded that service too. She was going to be out of town. We were going to do it live, but we didn't. But it was really a lot of fun. So I can tell you what we're going to talk about. She and I are leading a trip to Israel, and she's never been.
Oh, nice.
So we're doing a series of 3 or 4 conversations about what it's like to think about Israel intellectually, and as a scholar, she trained as a minister and is really into history. She's right now going to reflect upon what she imagines it to be, and then we're going to have a conversation as we get
very interesting.
So the first piece is what she imagines it to be. So next week, February 26th, 6 o'clock, we'll post it live. If I can be online with you, I will be online. We got a lot going on. I got some really special things in mind, some other services I've been able to capture, and some other videos. So join us. And for those, we're going to close with the closing words that we use each week. May we know blessings those who are near. Thank you for being here. May we know blessings those who are far, and thank you for being here. I'm delighted to share the Shabbat with you. May we know blessings those who are near and those who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.